number one thing I say is before you start blasting your resumes and applying to every single job you find on LinkedIn or Indeed or online, don't do that yet. First, go work with one, two, or several recruiting agencies or freelance recruiters. Work with them first. Staffing agency, the difference between recruiting and staffing is that recruiting is specifically referencing like full-time, typically professional salaried employees, whereas a staffing company will place hourly workers.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the How to Get a Job podcast. Today we're getting an amazing topic and guest, and we're going to be diving into the difference of working with an internal and external recruiter, right? That difference between working with someone directly with the company in their HR recruiting side versus working with a third-party staffing consulting firm to help you get a job. And to talk about this topic, I have an amazing guest. I have Jon Chintanaroad, and he is the founder of Recruiting Accelerator. They help people become freelance recruiters. Jon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Jon, how did you get into recruiting, and how did you get into helping others become freelance recruiters and so on? Welcome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, sure. So, like most people, I kind of fell into recruiting. I think no one actually goes to school or like majors in college for recruiting. They kind of just fall into it. So, I actually walked into a staffing agency looking for a job myself, and then they end up recruiting me to work for them. And I thought, why not? Like, I'm a people person. I like helping people, and if I can get paid for that, let's give it a shot. And so that's how I started my career. And then I went to more corporate recruiting roles. I recruited for Google in house, right, as a corporate recruiter. You mentioned that. And then later on, I spent most of my career at agency recruiters. And agency recruiters, they serve multiple clients, multiple companies. And then when I got laid off one day, my whole division got laid off. I said, you know what? Let me give it a shot to start my own recruiting. Actually, no, I wish I would have said that. I wish that like I had the guts to do that. What happened was when I called my clients to tell them, hey, bad news, I got laid off and my whole division did, so I won't be able to send you any more resumes, any more candidates. My top two clients were like, well, that sucks, but why don't you start your own thing, Jon? Like just go freelance and we'll work with you. So it's because of their encouragement and support, it gave me the confidence to just I said, all right, I'll give it a shot for 90 days. I got some unemployment money I can live off of, not very well, but I'll survive. And then it worked out. And and with recruiters, agency recruiters charge their clients like $20,000 for every hire, right? 20% of their candidate's salary. So I made a great living, made more money, and it's been great. And I think because of that, later on, as my old coworkers saw what I was doing, and they were kind of like, "Hey, Jon," they're reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I'm ready to start my own. Like, I want to give it a shot myself. I want to branch out my own. I'm pissed about my boss, or they changed my comp plan, or this new manager is micromanaging me. I'm ready to just leave the corporate world, and I want the freedom and all that stuff. We give me some tips and pointers?" So I did, and I saw how quickly they got results and made money and had success. So that kind of led from one-on-one coaching into this whole full-blown program that we have now where, we've been around for 3 years. We've helped like over 300 people, most of whom have no formal recruiting backgrounds, actually start their own freelance business as a recruiter. And they usually do it part-time on the side to supplement their income. And then once they make a couple of 20K recruiting deals or placements, as we call them, they usually go full-time and they go all in. So
I love it. I love it. Jon, I love the fact that you have both the internal and external recruiting factors. And I kind of wanted us to break down what is the difference between internal recruiting and external recruiters as it applies to the job seeker.
sure. And I think like the way I can best articulate this is how I help my friends look for jobs and how I help my friends work with recruiters. So I'll tell them, hey, when you go on your job search, a lot of times when you apply to a company directly, your application resume will go to an internal recruiter, meaning they work for Google, they work for Microsoft, right? Um, they work for Amazon, nobody else, and all they do is they help fill roles at that company, and that's fine. Usually, the your first interview or your first phone screen will be with that internal corporate recruiter, right? However, another type of recruiter is an agency recruiter where they work for a recruiting firm or staffing agency. People call it different things, but those people are similar to like a insurance agency where they'll work with multiple companies. So they might recruit for usually they target and they work with like small to medium sized companies that don't have the luxury of affording a expensive internal recruiting team, right? So small to medium sized companies rely on agency recruiters to help them find their talent. And so when you work with those recruiters, they will usually be able to present you to multiple companies, different clients that they all work with. And because agencies charge, they get paid so well, they charge 20% of your salary, which by the way doesn't come out of your paycheck, right? I think a misconception a lot of people have is that if I work with a recruiter, especially an agency recruiter, they're going to take a cut of my salary. I'll make less money by working with a recruiter. I'll make more money if I go direct. In fact, it's not that way at all, right? Most people don't understand that companies have a budget already to pay for recruiters to help them find people. The company that hires you will pay the recruiter that $20,000 or whatever. If you have 150K salary, they'll pay you. They'll pay the agency $30,000. And then because that recruiter at the agency gets a percentage of that, they're very motivated to make sure you get a job, and they'll help you brush up your resume, coach you on the interview, prep you for each stage of the interview, help you negotiate as high of a salary as possible, because their commission will be based on what the agency charges, and the agency charges a percentage of your salary to the client, right? So um, that's kind of the breakdown between internal and external recruiter. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. So like the internal recruiter, they're working directly with the company. So like when you were the recruiter at Google, your paycheck came from Google, and you weren't incentivized by that 20%. Like you just had a good salary and benefits, and you worked for Google. And but when you're at the agency, it's like kind of like their commission or how they make money is by like the agency only makes money in most cases, right? Once they place the candidate. And so for job seekers, like just to clarify, if I'm a company, like say I'm Opni, and we're looking to hire someone, we can try to hire somebody from in our own internally recruiter team, or if it's a very specific role that we're struggling to find talent and we're looking for a specific thing, we can work with an agency, right? And that agency can go out there and try to find it. And we're not paying an agency until we decide to hire one of their candidates. And they're taking a risk because as a company, I could be using two, three different agencies all at the same time, and the agencies are fighting to find the talent. And so high risk, high reward. And I have to then, because of that model, pay 20% for that. So, John, now I say this, I kind of, a question for you is like, okay, well, you make it sound so great. Like I am a job seeker. I would want someone that's working to place me, and then the company pays them, makes everything really easy for me. Is it as good as that sound, or what's the cons or pros that you could see there?
Yeah, so they're like it's really mostly pros, right? So here's what I tell my friends who are job seekers. I say, well, the number one thing I say is before you start blasting your resumes and applying to every single job you find on LinkedIn or Indeed or online, don't do that yet. First, go work with one, two, or several recruiting agencies or freelance recruiters. Work with them first. And basically let them like leverage their network, leverage their clients, and have them go knock on doors, like sell you right to companies first. And the reason why I say that is because um, people who have their own recruiting businesses, right? If you work with an agency recruiter, they'll be happy to work for you and push you and sell you to the hiring manager, leverage the relationship to be like, hey, I got this guy, this candidate named Daniel. He's amazing. He's definitely someone you want to talk to. They'll talk you up, but they'll only do that. They can only do that if their client has never seen your resume before. If I mention, hey, I talked to a guy, Daniel, I tell him your full name and everything, and they say, you know what, let me look it up. Oh, shoot. Hey, this guy sounds great. We already have him in our database. Looks like he applied yesterday. So thanks, but no thank you. We can't pay. We're not going to pay a fee for somebody that has already applied internally. And you basically just like, so one of the first questions a freelance recruiter or agency recruiter will ask you is, hey, here's my client. Here's the name of my client. Have you ever applied to them directly, or have you had any other recruiter submit your resume over to them? If the answer is yes, they're going to say the same thing. Hey, shoot, that's too bad. I can't help you because you're already in their system. So you can almost shoot yourself in the foot by, even though like it seems like a great thing to go and be aggressive and apply to as many jobs as possible, but by doing that, you're limiting how much an agency recruiter can help you. So instead, I recommend go find, go on Yelp, Google, find some agencies in your area, Like, so if you live in San Francisco, like I do, find a bunch of agencies that are in San Francisco because they have clients in the same geography. They have really good relationships with the hiring manager, and let them exhaust their network first. So give them like a week. If after a week they've already submitted you to all these clients, got you a bunch of interviews, and then at that point, after a week, I'd say you're free and clear to apply to any other company, because they would have already presented you to any clients that they have relationship with, right?
I want to kind of bounce some thoughts through that because I see your points. There's some things that I've seen it differently, and I kind of like. I think the idea is to like kind of talk through this. So I think it's I like the idea of you're saying like, hey, give it a week, right? Like let your contacts of the recruiters go submit your resume, because to your point, if you've already applied to that role or that company, then the company is not going to pay this agency that 20% fee. Like it's first come first serve, and even if you're dealing with multiple agencies, the agency that submitted that resume first is the one that gets the commission for that resume. Even if the second agency that submits it prepped your for the interview, it doesn't matter. Whoever submits by contract law, right, gets that. But I think it also this strategy doesn't apply, I would say, to all job seekers, because you have to have some experience. If you're coming out of college, you might like companies are not willing to pay 20% for no experience. This actually works really well. And John, correct me if I'm wrong on your point of view, the more technical or more niche and the more experienced your role is, where maybe you don't see tons of open roles online, like very very technical programming language that not many people know, or even just like, you see this more in the technical or even medical or technical medical or I forget. There's one more area that is it's super good for staffing that other roles are not as the same. Like that wouldn't work the same. Like if you're looking for a bartender role, agency wouldn't be where you would go.
Sure, right, right. So most of the people that we work with, like, or our program members work with, are professionals, and that's usually in their best interest, because a working professional who makes six figures is going to command at least a 20K fee, right? Sometimes much higher if you're going really, really high up. Like we had somebody, Gloria, who placed a dentist, and it was like a 200K salary, so she made like $40,000, right? So yeah, they want they're incentivized to go for higher salary people. So if you are a high salary earner, then for sure you're going to get a lot of attention from recruiters, because they're going to want to place you right now. What I think what you're talking about more is like the niche. Like if you are working in a specific vertical or niche or background, then it's important to, when you reach out to recruiting agencies, recruiting firms, or if you happen to come across a freelance recruiter, that you find the one that specializes in your niche. So if I'm in healthcare, I want to work with a healthcare agency, right? If I'm in IT, I want to work with a technical recruiting agency, because they'll understand who I am and they'll have more opportunities for me. You kind of want to avoid, like, now that being said, if you're a recent college grad or you don't have a degree yet, and that's fine, right? They have agencies for, like non-white collar jobs, right? So for example, if you're looking for to work at a factory or a warehouse, they have, then in that case, you wouldn't go for recruiting agencies, you would go for staffing agencies. Staffing agency, the difference between recruiting and staffing is that recruiting is specifically referencing like full-time, typically professional salaried employees, whereas a staffing company will place hourly workers. So you can definitely you should not bartending, because some people want to become bartenders, they don't apply, so they have enough resume flow, right? But yeah, like warehouse workers, IT help desk, anything that is kind of hourly. Then, and I walked into that company as a staffing with a staff agency. So my first roles I filled were like cashier at this store, or like someone that would hand out flyers, or just random bookkeepers, like just really anything. A lot of times they're short term based, short projects, 3 months here, 1 month there. Sometimes they'll have long term things. Now, this is a good tip for a job seeker: is if you're, I mean, obviously most people are looking for a stable full-time role with a good career opportunity, but if you're struggling to get a job and you're struggling for finding that perfect career job, it's okay to take a short-term contract position, a short-term temp position at a staffing agency. Because what happens is, if that company, let's say they hire you for a 4-week project, like stuffing envelopes, so that's what I used to fill. If they like you, they love you, they see that you're a hard worker, they see you're ambitious, they will call the staffing agency. They'll call me and say, "Hey, John, that guy Daniel that we had that weekend project we needed. Like, well, he's awesome, and we learned he has all these skills and all these ambitions. Like, we want to keep him full time, and we will help to convert them. So it's called a contract to hire, where they can basically convert you from an hourly worker, temporary part time, to a full time employee. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door as a job seeker. Now, in terms of you know, yeah, but we specialize in mostly full time because it's easier that way, and you make more money when you place full time people.
Yeah, no, I love that example of the staffing versus a recruiting agency. When I worked at a recruiting staffing agency, yeah, we were placing people for the Tesla Gigafactory in Reno, and so they were like 24 hour, $24 an hour jobs, but they're like no experience required because the Tesla was, and you were hiring by the masses. But you're right, like Tesla was like, hey, we're gonna start everyone here for 3 months, and if they do good, we'll convert them into full time employees with salary and all of that. And that's to your point. That's a really good way to start to do so. So I think just to recap, like you can go apply directly with the company and do the research on your role and based on your background. Like the doctors, very technical IT skills. Those I think you are better off reaching out to some very specific agencies or freelance recruiters that specialize and have a pipeline who have candidates already that can that candidates that have company relationships that can, directly with the hiring manager that can get your foot in the door. And then if not, right, then go apply yourself. But I do see there is one downfall that I see. I would just call it out. Let's say I was working with an agency, right, and they submit my resume and I don't get selected. If I go apply for another job 3 months later with the company, right, the company will see that that resume was submitted by an agency, and even though I'm no longer working with the agency because like I didn't see that there was traction there, I can actually not get the job because they're not wanting to pay the fee on that particular role, right? Just because they were open to paying a 20% fee on one role, they might not be open to paying that fee for all the roles that they have available. They only companies generally only want to pay that when they are struggling to find that themselves or it's too technical and they need to fill the role faster, so they work with the agency.
Right. Yeah, I think that situation. Well, so two things. That one is that, and this is what we help people with. We give all of our program members. We give them a standard agreement, a contract that it's a one pager that I use for my agency, and it says specifically like I will only have credit for X period of time. Right. Like, you'll pay me 20% of any candidate for for 3 months. And so if after 3 months they you hire them after that, that's okay. But so basically there's no like it's not a lifetime dibs on the candidate. And two, most candidates don't are not like they can't really get any other job besides one. Like most people are skilled. Like, hey, I'm a software developer, I do JavaScript, I do front end development. Like that person's not going to apply for like a database job and be like, oh hey, that's we'll hire them there. Like yeah, exactly, they're really fit for one role really well, so that doesn't come across as much, right? But the whole niche thing is very important, right? Like one of the first things that we do with people is we help them with a niche discovery process. So we make sure every person we help train them to become a freelance recruiter, we kind of make them pick one niche and become a specialist in that niche and have relationships with companies only in that niche, ideally to start. So that way, when they talk to candidates, they can say, "Hey, Daniel, I have like 5 companies I work with who would all be excited to meet you." And then they can then like submit you to like 5 other clients. And at the end of the day, they don't really care that much who hires you because they'll get paid regardless. But the good thing for the candidate is that now that one recruiter can send you to multiple companies. And also, I think the last thing that I think is important for people to realize is that, well, two things. One is the advantage of working with a freelance recruiter or an agency recruiter is that they might be able to get you jobs that are not advertised online, right? So not every so you would think like every single company has all their jobs posted on LinkedIn or Indeed. That's not the case, right? They might be posting 2 or 3 jobs, but the other jobs might be something that's like further down the line. Like for example, right now it's November, so they might be thinking, hey, come January, we really want to like think about hiring a salesperson or something like that. Now, if I come across your resume and we're talking, or you reach out to me and I say, hey, Daniel, like you have a solid sales background in this exact same niche that my clients did. I know they're not hiring right now, but they mentioned Q1. Let me reach out to them and see if they would be willing to maybe make you an offer, postpone your start date for Jan or something, right? Like work it in where like it's called an opportunity hire. Like I think you'll make a great opportunity hire. Now I'll call my client saying, "Hey, I know you mentioned a salesperson you want to hire in January. What I got the rock star person right now. It's November. Before you might want to talk to him and maybe pick him up before January because he'll be off the market by then. And you can do plenty of training and get him all ramped up over the holidays. So January 1st, he's out there taking down clients for you, right? Now that the recruiter just opened a door for you that you didn't even know existed, right? So that's another thing. And the second thing, and maybe the last thing I'll mention about working with a recruiter is that people like most candidates, most job seekers don't take their calls with recruiters very seriously. They're like, oh, I'm talking to an agency recruiter or a staffing company recruiter. Like they're not the person who's going to hire me, so I'm just going to like whatever. I'll be on the road. I'll be at the shopping mall talking to them, right? Or I'll be in a Zoom call and I'll just be wearing like my tank top. I don't really care, right? This is not going to be my future boss, right? What they don't know is that as a independent recruiter, I have a list of clients. I have like a roster of clients. Some A clients who are the best, really attractive companies. They pay really well. I have B clients and like maybe shitty C clients, right? So that maybe I keep on the back burner every now and then. Well, what the recruiter is doing when you talk to them is they're judging you. They're making a quick snapshot call to say, is this someone who I want to put in front of my best client? Now, if you come out, if you, it, yeah, because every time I present a candidate to any client, I'm kind of sticking my neck. I'm vouching for you, right? Now, if you show up to meet with me and you're late to our appointment, you dress sloppily, you're in your car, you're distracted, you don't have a resume ready, like like you're not prepared. Well, I'm not gonna take the risk and put you in front of my best client. I'm gonna put you in front of like my third best client because I don't really care and they're desperate and whatever. So I always recommend, hey, treat the phone call with the recruiter as if it was actual live interview. Because if you win over that recruiter and they love you, they're gonna do everything for you. They're gonna put you in front of all their clients because they see, oh man, this person's professional. They show up on time. They're prepared. They're clear on what they want. They're clear on how much money they want to make. There's no ambiguity. Like they say, oh, we call those walking placements. There's like this person's a walking placement. I'm just gonna they're gonna get it, and they're gonna think, man, this person's so good, so professional. Yeah, they're gonna get a job with or without my help in the next couple of weeks. So I better hustle and get them in front of as many clients of mine, or even use their resume to open up new relationships with other potential clients because someone's gonna make a 20K fee off them, and then I want it to be me. So if you can treat that interview seriously, it's only gonna help you, I think.
No, I love this tips because you're right. Like like I was telling you, like I spent 6 months working for a staffing agency, and I know exactly what you mean by when you talk to a kid and like, oh, this person's great, and you would send him to the hiring manager, and sometimes the hiring manager doesn't see what you see. They're like, I think I'm going to pass on this one, Daniel, and you're like, call the hiring manager, like, look, trust me, John. I know that the resume might not be as impressive of what you're looking for, but when I spoke to this guy on the phone, like he's worth a shot. Just meet with him, do this favor for me. Just meet with them. It's worth the conversation, right? And you wouldn't do that with every candidate. You wouldn't do that and put your reputation, your name, ask for that favor because you build this. Like recruiting is a relationship business, right? You wouldn't do that if the guy is late, like rude, like it's like taking the Zoom call on his phone while he's at the mall. Like that wouldn't happen. So love all this advice and really like we don't talk in the podcast a lot about staffing agencies, recruiting agencies, freelance recruiting. So I'm really glad that you're here and you share this with us today. John, for people listening that want to learn a little bit more about you and what you do, how can they get a hold of you and where they can connect with you?
Sure. Of course. Like I think as anyone listening or watching this is kind of getting a better idea of what a agency recruiter does, right? They find good. They help a bunch of different companies find good people. So if you can see yourself as someone that like helps people find careers, help companies find good people, if you've already helped someone land a job. And you enjoy doing that, then you probably already know you have the good foundation of being a recruiter, and you just haven't gotten paid it for it. It's kind of like you're doing $20,000 favors for people, and you might not be realizing. So if that's the case, we have lots of information. We have free training on our website, Recruiting Accelerator. right? recruitingaccelerator.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not a hard person to find, and happy to uh, tell you more about that.
Perfect. So I'll put those two links, a link to your LinkedIn on the show notes, as well as a little about you and the recruitingaccelerator.com website. Jon, thank you so much for being here. This has been great. For all of you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and follow if you're not done so already. Share this to someone you think it could be helpful. And thank you so much for listening, and catch you guys on the next episode.